Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi,
Very
good,
well.
thanks.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, as ever. Very, very nice to see you both. Congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
I have
Thanks.
watched episode one. I was intending to watch episode two, but I was so shook by episode one that I had to put my laptop down, walk away, have a cup of tea, and yeah, you know what happens. You know what happens. Just gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave that there. So I mean, David, maybe starting with you. What was the lure of this? Had you read the book, or was it the scripts, or was it a combination of both that kind of lured you into this one?
Oh, what lured me into this one is on the screen. It's Gugu. Both in terms of the opportunity to work with her, but the fact that she's the one who sent me the scripts, and was interested in me joining her on this journey with her. And I read them cover to cover. I only had the first two episodes initially, and was just beyond frustrated at the fact that I didn't know where this was going because I was so drawn in by them. But it also afforded me a character, the likes of which I haven't been offered before. And That's always attractive to an actor. I had seen Lisa Brulman's film actually a while ago, a film of hers that she directed called Blew My Mind, which I really enjoyed. And when I found out it was her directing, that was compelling as well. And an opportunity to shoot something in the UK. I now live in the States, and anytime that's a possibility, I always love to come back. So yeah, there were so many things.
So then for you, Gugu, so to say, excuse me. What was the lure of the whole thing? Obviously, you're behind it as a producer. You obviously wanted David and everything else. So what did you see in this that was maybe different to anything that you'd read before or been a part of before?
Well, I've never done a psychological thriller before. And in reading these scripts, I was really drawn into the fact that I felt like they worked on many levels. That the characters all have these deeply disturbing, events that have happened to them, or, in their psychology. And, as an actor, I love that meaty, psychological stuff to get your teeth into acting wise. But on one level, but there was also a style to the show, the thriller elements, the questionnaire, and the sort of luxury world of the house, that I felt like there was the depth of the emotional elements, and also this elevated, stylish world, which you don't often see on British television at the same time. So for me, that was really intriguing. And then to be offered the opportunity to inhabit my first producer role as associate producer, with 42 Productions and BBC and HBO Max, was just a great challenge for growth, and I think, I've spoken to David, who's produced many of his own projects with his own production company, Yoruba Saxon, and along the way as actors, how we grow and how we are able to choose the stories and influence the culture that we're in by what stories we choose to be a part of. And so for me, there was the added challenge of sort of having a seat at the table, or a seat at the Zoom room, as it was mostly, with the producers and the writer, JP Delaney, just to be able to really be a part of the casting process and make sure that the characters were as nuanced as they possibly could be, and really just to learn. I looked at it as like, being at producer school for a few months, in lockdown, in pre-production. So yeah, there were so many great reasons. And of course Lisa Brulman, who I'm a huge fan of, and her vision for the show was so singular. So yeah, it was really, a no-brainer.
Yeah. I have to say, David, I've never heard a double macchiato ordered in quite that way before that you do in the show. I'll be honest with you. That was quite. I've never heard. I mean, I know people get upset in Starbucks if they have to wait for their coffees, but your delivery was so good. So, but was that part of, as you say, I spoke to you before, and in your film, you obviously you've played certain characters before, but this one is very different for you. So was that always something that you wanted to do, to maybe stretch yourself in a different way that was unlike something you've done before? And did that present you with any different challenges that you've faced in your career thus far?
It's what you look for in every opportunity is, how is this going to challenge me? How is it going to scare me? How is it going to show me and the audience a different side of myself? But of course, you can desire that. Doesn't mean it comes along every day or any day. And that was, it's so rare for me personally where something comes along that is like a total no-brainer, and it's just like, okay, when is it shooting? How do I clear the schedule? Ooh, let's go. And this was one of those rare ones, really. And then you factor in the fact that, as Gugu said, we were shooting this in the middle of a pandemic. We were shooting this at a time where, gosh, how do you even shoot stuff? So there was that added complexity, which, what I love about actors and storytellers is, Gugu and I come from a theatrical tradition as well, is just this thing of finding a way, no matter what. And that was an added component in terms of The Girl Before. Like, okay, we are going to find a way to shoot this when we are in lockdown and masks. And one of the weirdest things about this show was that I saw more of Lisa Brolman's face before we shot than when we shot the film or the show, because she was constantly, all I ever saw were her eyes. And she's Swiss, and English isn't necessarily her first language, and so you're sort of, from your director, you're trying to absorb everything they want, and all I had was this and sort of a muffled Swiss accent, so it was really challenging to get this thing done with all the nuance involved. But I'm just so proud of the end result.
Yes. And Gugu, I mean, Jane's story is very moving, very touching, also quite sad in its way, not to give anything away. So what was the lure to her as a character? Because, again, not to give anything away, there's certain things that we discover and some things that we don't discover straight away. So was that part of the thinking for you to get involved in this as an actor as well as a producer, that the role of Jane was something that appealed to you?
Yeah, I think it's always the journey for me in a character. Like, what's the arc? I think, like you say, she starts off in quite a disempowered position. She's in a state of grief and has had this life-changing loss. And I feel like, for me, the wonderful thing we get to do in storytelling is to be able to show a way through, these kind of intense situations. And I think what I loved about the story for Jane is that she really, she goes on a journey, and it's a journey towards healing, and it's a journey towards, getting her power back. And I hope that will be inspiring for people to watch, and yes, it's sad circumstances, but, we all live through sad circumstances. And I think that there's an opportunity, I think, even though it's a glossy psychological thriller, that there is an opportunity for catharsis as well, in these kind of stories. And I was really, delighted that the character has and the story has those layers as well. So for me, yeah, I'm always looking for, something that's going to sort of move you and entertain you, and hopefully, leave you in a different place to where you started.
Absolutely. Guys, it's always lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much as ever for your time. I really look forward to seeing the rest of the show. I hope it goes fantastic for you both.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey